Ruin My Childhood.
Thank you for listening to Ruin My Childhood, the podcast where we decide if some things are better left in the past. I'm Mike.
And I'm Kat.
And what are we going to be covering today, Kat?
George of the Jungle.
I'm actually really excited about this. I don't know why, but it popped in my head that I wanted to watch this movie like 3 months ago. And I'm glad we're finally doing it.
Me too.
What is your relationship with this movie? What do you remember about it?
My relationship? Well, I mean, back in the day, there weren't that many options for entertainment where we grew up. So if a family-friendly comedy came out, everyone was going to go see it.
Right. I definitely saw this in theaters.
Yeah, definitely saw this in theaters. I don't know if we owned it. Actually, yeah, I think we owned it.
My
next door neighbor owned it. It was a popular kids movie.
Yeah, we owned it. I really enjoyed it. Is there anything particular you remember?
They had some great marketing.
Great marketing? I remember parts of this movie. Like, I remember the overall plot, but I can't remember, like, how everything, like, all the little nooks and crannies of this movie fit in to the overall plot. But one thing I remember, and I don't know why, there's a song in the movie that I've always remembered. I don't know what the scene is, but it's like, I've been waiting for you all my life, hoping for a miracle. And then it's like, I said, day. But
right.
Yeah, there's just a song, and it's like, I cry day when I'm with you. And I don't know why, but I've had that song stuck in my head for years, and I really like it.
Nonstop? Man.
Yeah, I've seriously,
rough.
well, maybe not nonstop, but I've definitely remember that song from this movie for some reason.
On our wedding day? Were you thinking about that song?
Yep. I was thinking
Our
about
first
you,
date?
and I was like, and I'm like, day.
That explains why you cried.
Oh, you looked really pretty at our wedding.
Oh.
The only other thing I really remember is there's a scene where somebody falls off like one of those like rickety rope bridges. And this movie, like, there's a narrator the whole time, and he goes, this is a family film, so nobody dies. They just get really, really big boo-boos or ouchies or something like that. And yeah, I just remember this movie being hilarious, and had, I think it was my introduction to Brendan Fraser, even though he'd been around for years before that. No, Encino Man was my introduction to him.
I definitely don't remember any of the plot of this movie. It's more just a general vibe.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a couple voicemails, and I know you got at least a comment.
I did.
So let's play one of these voicemails.
Hey, how's it going? Prime here. Long time listener, first time caller. Of course, you just got called. But I want to say George of the Jungle is a very self-aware movie. I think it's too self-aware at some points. Some points it's not. But I still think it'll be enjoyable for you guys. It's just fun, right? That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Prime.
Yeah, thank you, Prime. Yeah, and that's what it is. Like, it's an overall feeling. It's quirky. It's tongue-in-cheek. It plays on the appeal of going on an adventure.
I'm pretty sure it breaks the fourth wall a bunch.
I definitely remember some asides. Yeah. And I think they were weird ones.
Oh, I definitely remember the really big boo-boos that I said earlier. Yeah, I think it's a weird movie just in general.
Yeah.
All right, you have a comment for us?
I do. Actually, I have a couple. Story of Dan Jewel sent 2 okay emojis.
That's the white power symbol.
Shut up. Oh my god. And the incredible, is it Holes or Holsey?
Hulse. Like Hulk.
Hulse? The Incredible Hulse? Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Anyway, she said I had the major hots for Brendan Fraser as a girl.
With a monkey.
See no evil monkey emoji.
We got one more voicemail. I probably should have mentioned, if you guys want to leave a voicemail, it's 64 MDXpods 1 is the phone number.
You really couldn't get 69?
No, that was literally the only one that I can get that had MDXpods in it. So 64 MDXpods 1 if you want to leave a voicemail or anything like that. Here's our second voicemail.
George of the Jungle says shit.
So this app that we have that we receive our voicemails on, it transcribes them for us, and it dictated that one as George of the Jungle t-shirt. We'll go with that.
I don't know who that was, but thank you. There's no name on this, so
it's a 408, some Gilroy scumbag.
If you're not opposed, I think we should go watch the movie and then come back and talk about it.
And if I am opposed?
Well, then we're going to do that anyway.
Oh, I see how it is.
Yep, it's a podcast. It's very formulaic.
George of the Jungle, strong as he can be. me, George.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the king of the jungle.
Ooh, he's a real ladies' man. Now he's going from one jungle to another.
Mom, Dad, this is George.
So call all your friends and tell them to watch out
That's your dog?
for this smash hit.
Watch out for that tree! George of the jungle, friend to you and me!
And we're back. We just watched George of the Jungle, and I've got a lot I want to talk about. What about you?
Got a lot I want to talk about. Mainly the way you clip your sentences on the podcast.
First off,
Awkward artificial laugh. In brackets.
I got to say that opening sequence is pretty crazy. I thought I was gonna have a seizure watching it.
I completely forgot about the animated exposition.
The scream in that is really annoying. So it has the classic George of the Jungle. George of the Jungle, strong as he can be.
That might be the first time you've ever gotten a melody right on this show. Well done.
But there's like a scream, and it's like a baby swinging around, but the scream, like the voice is way too deep for a baby, and it's really annoying actually.
Yeah.
And then there's weird like strobe effects that were really intense.
I'm lucky I didn't have epilepsy because there was no warning for that either.
No, not at all.
I mean, the first thing that caught my attention in watching this is, what year did this come out?
97.
97. I kind of guessed it was around that time. I was not expecting the animatronics or the CGI or any of the effects to look as good as they did. Like, those drumming gorillas don't look half bad. Probably
No,
just
the gorillas
a bunch
look
of dudes
good.
in suits,
The
but
gorilla suits look good.
yeah,
And the CG for the elephant looked really good. Like,
right?
I don't know if you saw the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog that came out this week, but the CG in 1997 in George of the Jungle looks better than the titular character Sonic the Hedgehog in a 2019 movie.
That's sad.
Yeah. Now,
What was
granted,
the budget for this?
I don't know, but it was a Disney movie, so I'd imagine it was quite a bit. I did look into it a little bit. I didn't look at the budget, but
I feel like Disney invested a lot in their live action during this era in the 90s, and then it just kind of like petered out to straight to DVD.
for a little bit, absolutely. But I was reading somewhere that the person who had the rights to George of the Jungle was shopping it around and no studio wanted it. And they didn't even approach Disney because Disney had the rights to Tarzan and they had already announced the animated movie. So they didn't think that they would want George of the Jungle. And then apparently Disney reached out to them and actually needed something to fill out their like summer slate.
So wait, somebody saw that they could purchase the rights to George of the Jungle and wrote a script just...
No,
For
like
the
whoever
hell of
had they had the rights to the movie, but they were trying to get it shopped and get it made, and no studio wanted it. And Disney decided to purchase it, even though they already had not George of the Jungle. That's what we're talking about.
Tarzan.
They already had Tarzan. So it was like the last dude that was expected to purchased it, and they put a ton of money into this. And to answer your question about budget, this movie had a budget of $55 million. It had an opening weekend of just shy of $23 million.
Whoa.
And then had
In
a gross
97.
in 97 and had a gross of just shy of 175 million worldwide. So
Wow.
it was financially is very successful. What's weird is it
It's
had
a
a
good
sequel,
investment.
but the sequel was a direct to DVD.
I never even heard about the sequel.
I saw it was bad.
Yeah.
But getting into the movie, or the theme song at the beginning, I thought for sure it was They Must Be Giants, or They Might Be Giants, who did the theme song at the beginning. It wasn't. It was Presidents of the United States and
Presidents of the United States of America.
and Weird Al did it. And I thought for sure it was They Might Be Giants.
Creative
It sounds exactly
geniuses
like them.
behind Peaches Come From a Can. They were put there by a man in a factory downtown.
And Weird Al, 'cause I'm fat. Uh-huh.
Man, they'd put anything
Really,
on the
really
radio
fat.
in the 90s.
He was more the 80s. All right, so you should summarize the movie.
Right.
All right, I'll do it real quick. So basically, in a nutshell, the animated opening shows us that a plane crashed in the jungle right by Ape Mountain. And the most precious...
Ape Mountain.
That's what the place is called.
Is that near Mountain?
What are you doing? I don't even know where that is geographically. Anyway, Ape Mountain, the most precious cargo was
It sounded like
George.
you said 8 Mountain.
Ape Mountain.
Ape.
And this kid
Ape.
gets lost and is raised by an ape named Ape, who's voiced by John Cleese. And, you know, like 30 years later, Leslie Mann is in the jungle for some reason. Her name is Ursula. No, we're not told why she's there, but she's just there. Her boyfriend / fiance, played by Thomas Hayden Church, his name is Lyle. No, Lyle's his name in... What's his name?
Lyle Vandergroot.
It is Lyle. I think he has the same name in Wings.
He looks like a Lyle.
I think
Poor
that's his
thing.
character's name in Wings.
I take that back. I don't feel sorry for him.
But he shows up, and they find out about this legend of the Great White Ape. It's George. And Ursula gets attacked by a lion, gets saved by George. George ends up going back to San Francisco with her, and they form a relationship.
And it's in a morally gray area, in my
Right.
opinion.
Why?
Because he's simple. Like, George is functioning at the level of everyone he hung out with, and he mostly hung out with gorillas. So
Yeah, but
what's the human equivalent of the maturity of an adult gorilla?
I don't know, but Ape is super smart.
Ape is super smart. Doesn't mean George is super smart.
What I'm saying, he's
simple.
He's simple. Yeah.
He's like an 8-year-old.
Has too many head injuries. So I know the whole shtick of George of the Jungle is he's got to watch out for the trees because he's always hitting dim trees. But there's no way he's not dead.
Right. Yeah, but no one dies in this, so it's okay.
This movie does break the fourth wall quite a bit, and I very, very much enjoyed it. There are a lot of little one-liners that I really liked. What were some highlights for you before we kind of just move across the movie? Patrick,
That actually brings me back to something that my friend Natalie said when I posted this in my timeline on my personal Instagram. She said, let's see, let me find it. There's a really good essay out there somewhere about this movie and how it is directed toward the female gaze. A rare thing for Hollywood.
Oh, there are several scenes in this movie where they're just like objectifying Brendan Fraser.
You know, it's about time.
Yeah, back in 1997.
But now that I know like what went down with him, I feel bad saying that.
Well, all that weird stuff happened well after this, after The Mummy. So you can feel okay objectifying him prior to The Mummy.
I mean, can you really feel okay?
Yes. Oh, you want to hear something interesting? Speaking of his hot bod, of course, he hired a physical trainer to get him in peak physical condition for this role.
Uh-huh.
And for whatever reason, the personal trainer did not end up in the credits. And that guy sued the studio and Brendan Fraser and lost.
Hang on. Did the studio hire him to
No,
get
Brendan
him ready
Fraser did.
for this? Yeah, right. Okay, so he's under no obligation to provide him any kind of credit.
Well,
That's silly.
a lot of people do put their personal trainers in the credit. Like, your assistant
because
gets to
the
be...
studio is subsidizing that
Right.
for every day that they're on set with you.
I guess, but a lot of
Pretty
the
sure.
times, like, even just their assistant is on there. So, anyway, good. He lost. Brendan Fraser got to keep his money. So, good for him.
Good for
Because
him.
we know he needed it because he had a really messy divorce. And
Jeez, put the guy on
you want-
blast.
He put himself on blast. He talks about it all the damn time.
Oh, he's
So-
doing a Jennifer Aniston.
Well, no, what happened was he got divorced shortly after doing like the year where he did like The Mummy, the second Mummy, Bedazzled, or whatever that movie's called. He did a Looney Tunes movie and then some other movie. So he did like 4 or 5 movies. Then this was at like his peak. And then he got divorced and then his star quickly fell.
Yeah, it did.
And so his
It
alimony
plummeted.
was based off that year. And then he basically didn't work forever. So like he's been screwed out on alimony and he's tried to get it like adjusted for years. And I think he finally got adjusted recently. But now he's working again. He's been in a couple movies and he's on Doom Patrol. So good for him. He's working.
Good for him.
Good for you.
This movie's kind of weird.
It's
Don't you
very
think it's weird? I kept waiting for it to get better, but it didn't get worse. It just got weirder.
It's a really weird movie. Like the opening line to the movie is 25 years later, the bouncing baby boy has grown into a swinging jungle king. And he like they say it exactly like this. It's super quick because George is like running and swinging and jumping. He goes, he's swift, he is strong, he is sure, he is smart. And then he goes, he is unconscious because he hits a tree and falls down.
So this movie is kind of in the vein, well, it's got the same mood, I guess, as the first Scooby-Doo movie.
Yeah,
and
a
like
little bit.
watching it, you're not quite sure if maybe like you're dying and you're hallucinating part of this, because it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense a lot of the time.
No, it doesn't. It's very hectic. Like this is like another thing. So very early in the movie, you know, they're going around the jungle and they see the peak of Ape Mountain, and it's shaped like an ape. And the narrator goes, and they reacted with awe, and they go, aw. And he goes, no, I said awe, A-W-E, and they go, ooh, and he's like, that's better. Like, the narrator directly interacts with the characters, and that's not the only time.
I liked that. That was funny.
I thought it was funny too, and I don't know who the narrator is, but I thought he did a great job, whoever he is.
Random.
Lyle's racist.
I mean, is he the only racist person in this? Because there's a legend here. Like, the reason they go into the jungle is there's this legend of the white ape. You'd think that these dudes would just know what a white dude in a loincloth looked like. Like,
well,
why did they think
he
was actually... Then where did the legend come from?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense, Michael.
Maybe George killed everybody else except for one person.
That wasn't in the animated exposition.
Well, the animated exposition only got him to, like, hey, he got lost. And then it went 25 years later. He's strong and fast and smart. He's not smart.
Yeah, so I just think it's a little bit rude that these dudes in the Congo, like, I get it, they're all black, they don't see as many white people, but you'd think they'd know what a white dude looks like.
Right. Well, maybe they just saw, you know, a bunch of gorillas and they just saw some, like, pale skin really quickly and thought, oh, there's a weird albino gorilla or something. I don't know.
Or maybe, like, Matthew McConaughey had been there playing bongos with them, so they just thought he was one of them.
Who's that actor that you think looks like a gorilla?
Oh, no, it's Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte. Maybe Nick Nolte was there.
He specifically looks like the albino gorilla.
He really does.
Yeah.
He really, really does.
Twinning.
So the way that they meet Ursula and George is she is fighting with Lyle. He drags her to the jungle. Like, he wants to find this great ape so they can just leave. And then a lion comes, and so George rescues her. But the way he, like, fights the lion, he's like, here, kitty, 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 meow. He's, like, meowing at the lion. And then he, like, picks it up, spins it, he clotheslines it, and he's like, rubber tree, great for clotheslines. And then he, like, piled it. He, like, beats the crap out of this lion.
He breaks the lion's back,
He
obviously.
does. He picks it up over his head, and then, like, brings it down like Bane with Batman.
At first, it's funny because it's a little ridiculous. And then it just keeps going. You start to feel bad. And then it keeps going. And then it's not fun. And you're like, oh, did Jimmy Fallon do this? It's bad.
Well, and then, like, the lion comes back and it's, like, totally chill with everybody.
Yeah.
Because later on, so the pacing of this movie is a little interesting. So it's a good, like, 20 minutes until they really meet. And then they spend about 15, 20 minutes in the jungle together. And then it's San Francisco for about 20, 30 minutes.
I feel like they spend more time focused on the elephant dog than they do on any kind of
right,
storyline
it's
in the
weird.
jungle.
And then, like, the whole thing with... There's, like, these... Lyle hires these, like, mercenaries, I guess, to help find Ursula and her crew. And then those mercenaries know the story of the great ape, or the white ape. And then they decide to try to hunt him. And then they realize that ape is talking, so they want to capture him, bring him to Vegas, and have a Vegas show and make money off of him. So there's that weird side plot too. But what I was going to say is the lion thing. So they only spend like 20 minutes in the jungle before going to San Francisco, and they do a lot of stuff. Like, there's a scene where they have like a sexy little date in the waterfall, but George doesn't know how to... What's the word I'm looking for?
Express his feelings.
He doesn't know how to, like, the mating rituals of humans. He only knows ape mating rituals of, like, puffing out your chest and throwing leaves and stuff. So, you know, there's a scene like that. There's that dance scene that I was talking about at the top of the episode with the "and I say day." Yeah, anyway. And then there's this random scene where it's supposed to show that he's, like, the king of the jungle, and this, like, little tiny monkey that looks like what I looked like as a baby.
A capuchin?
A capuchin little
you looked
monkey.
Exactly
I
like
really
a
did.
capuchin. It's terrifying.
Shows up.
How are you a skinny baby? It's so weird.
I don't know. But this monkey shows up and is like, I need your help, George. And it turns, like, you think there's this, like, big danger. It turns out that he just doesn't have any friends and wants to be friends with the other monkeys. So George sends the lion from the beginning of the movie to, like, attack the other little monkeys, and tells the little monkey that needs a friend to just make George of the Jungle Tarzan sounds. And then you just see this really weird, like, choppy footage of the monkey going, ah, cat like banging his chest and bouncing around, and then the lion runs away, and then he becomes friends with all the other little monkeys.
There are a lot of little bits that kind of go nowhere in this film.
And that was like a good 5 minutes of this movie, and this movie is an hour and 31 minutes.
Yeah.
And they spend like 5 to 6 minutes on this like monkey shtick.
There wasn't a lot to the script.
No,
I
the
mean,
plot
let's be
was-
real.
yeah.
It makes sense given the source material. What did George of the Jungle even? I don't remember.
It was a
anything.
cartoon from, like,
I
the
watched that
60s.
cartoon a lot,
Yeah.
and I don't remember anything
Neither
about
do I.
it.
Neither do I.
Yeah, it is what it is. Basically, it is derivative of the cartoon, and I think if you go into it expecting that, then it makes perfect sense.
Right.
One thing that doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to me. Well, I mean, I guess it does, because as soon as Lyle shows up, Ursula's not so cool with him being there.
No.
Like, she looks upset, and then immediately he basically drags them out into the jungle, trying to get them both killed. At this point, she's so irritated with him that she gets abducted by this ape man, and she's kind of chill with it right away.
Hot.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna get some jungle strange. Get them parasites.
Oh my god, that's how you get parasites. That's literally how you get parasites in your vagina.
Yep.
Banging ape men.
In the jungle. He had a pretty sweet pad though. He had a treehouse made out of like airplane parts that had an elevator. It was pretty cool.
He lives with a gorilla.
Hey, they're pretty closely related to us.
They can rip your face off.
They can. Hey, did you know gorillas mainly eat celery, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't know anything about bodybuilding. So we've never seen a gorilla at their full potential.
Load them up with some peanut butter. See what happens.
Right? Just get them a personal trainer and they'll mess some stuff up.
You should set them up with Hagrid.
Our cat is ripped. He has
He's
like a
yoked.
6-pack and he's like super buff. We're pretty sure he lifts the couch when we're not around. And the other day we were watching a movie and he was under the couch and he was making the whole couch shake. It was crazy.
He was trying to lift it and we were in the way. You know, if you hold him up with one hand in the middle of his belly, he'll do the Superman. Like, he is ripped.
Yeah.
If we shaved him, he'd have an 8-pack. Now I kind of want to.
Oh no.
Just for the summer. It'll be fine.
So there was a song that came on in the middle and it was like a Barry White song, classic song, but it had Shaggy singing. I didn't know Shaggy had any music
Let's
other
Stay
than
Together.
Yeah. I didn't know he had anything other than It Was On Me.
Shaggy was actually very successful in the 90s.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
He was a product of his time.
Right.
Like Ali G.
Ah. Of course.
So she's got the hots for this loincloth ape man. But obviously he's a little bit socially awkward. So
Right.
she's like, I'm gonna bag this at home. Like, I'll
Right.
take him home, get him cleaned up, get him
We
vaccinated.
get shot in the face first. He does.
He does.
So really quickly, there's a scene
It wasn't
where
that serious. There are hospitals there.
right. So there's a scene. Well, what's weird is so Lyle finally figures out what's going on, shows up, he slips in like elephant poop, and then there's a fourth wall break where one of the guides looks and he says, "Bad guy falls in poop." Classic. Maybe I shouldn't do it with the accent.
No, don't.
Bad guy falls
Maybe
in
don't
poop.
read that much of the script.
Classic element of physical comedy. Now comes the part where we throw our head back and laugh. Ready? Ready. And then, or the narrator says ready, and then the guys say ready, and then they throw their heads back and laugh. So just like another weird scene, but it's funny. And then he pulls out this gun. Then the whole movie, he's got this lighter that looks like a gun, and he says, "I'm gonna go shoot the guy." They're like, "Well, that's a lighter, not a gun." He goes, he doesn't know that, and then somehow it's magically a gun, and he shoots George in the
Because
face.
he switched them. When he opened up the backpack, there was a real gun and there was the lighter, and he looked at them both and was like, I mean, I don't remember which one's which. Screw it. Just
Which
gave
one
him
of those
whichever
people
one.
had this little girly gun?
That's all you need.
No, I'm not saying that you need anything more than that. It just seems weird that when you look at the crew that was there, that doesn't seem like the kind of gun that either of those two like mercenary dudes would carry.
That's the kind of gun that James Bond would shoot.
Only the Timothy Dalton one.
Okay, what's wrong with Timothy Dalton?
Nothing. I actually really like Timothy Dalton quite
I
a bit.
love Timothy Dalton. You shut your mouth, Michael. Yeah. What else do you have?
Just another thing. Okay, kids, let's settle down and review the important information. Lyle's a big doofus. Poor George really was shot, but can't die because, let's face it, he's the hero.
Stop reading quotes.
I had to.
You're gonna ruin the only good parts of this movie if anyone wants to actually watch this.
Oh, that's true. I apologize. No more quotes. There'll be like one more quote. So they end up in San Francisco, and there's just like a lot of weird set pieces in this. There's a point where he rescues a skydiver who got tangled in the Golden Gate Bridge, and he swings around on the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? So I was saying that the CGI and the special effects look really good. The green screen does not qualify.
I didn't think it was that bad. I really didn't. There was one scene when they were riding on the elephant that looked pretty bad, but overall I didn't think it looked that bad. You pointed it out a couple times and I didn't see it, but there was one scene that was really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I think maybe you were just looking for it at that point.
No, I was trying to find anything that was okay, but at this point, she'd already like taken the jungle man back to San Francisco to clean him up and try and bang him, and she didn't even give him any clothes right away. Like, San Francisco's cold, okay? Doesn't matter what time
Compared
of year
to the jungle? Yeah.
It is cold compared to the jungle on the equator.
Right. Well, and what's weird is, once again, you would think that they would spend a decent amount of time in this part of this movie, but they really don't. So he shows up, she immediately calls her friend, and her friend's like, damn, I want to tap that.
Her friend is kind of predatory.
Super predatory and super creepy. And then all of a sudden, like, she's like, I gotta go to work. So he goes out and about on his own, and that's when he, like, saves that guy from the bridge. But the next thing you know, they're at the engagement party. Lyle's in jail in Africa, so he can't show up. And
I thought I'd missed something. Like,
No.
for a second, I thought maybe I passed out and woke up.
no, it's just that quick.
It's
And it makes no
bizarre.
sense. And
And then nothing makes sense ever
No.
again in the entire
So,
film.
like, the scene goes really, really quick. Like, this whole thing's like 5 minutes, but so much happens. So Ursula tells the whole story, basically summarizes the whole movie to her parents, and they actually like fast forward it. And then the mom freaks out. And meanwhile, while she's telling the story, so at the same time that Ursula's telling the story, there's this scene where you see these two men, and they're on this like balcony, and they're watching a bunch of women, and they think the women are just watching these horses. They're like, what's with women and horses? But in reality, you just see George glistening, running with horses in slow motion.
He goes full Fabio.
And like, the women are so thirsty. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. But you know, all the women from then on out are kind of strange. Ursula's mom, at one point, sits down to confront him about the situation, the reality of the situation, that being involved with him would hurt her social standing. Therefore, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Someone comes in and offers her an hors d'oeuvre, and she says, "No, thank you. I've had quite enough protein for the day."
Right.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Well, she says something along the lines of like, if you don't leave, I'm going to take away the only reason why you need to wear a loincloth. Saying she's going to chop his ding-dong off.
Maybe she's just talking about his foreskin. I mean, it's
Oh,
not like
he's
he's
probably-
getting circumcised by that
Well,
ape.
he was a
Although,
baby.
you know, the ape did have that big book of medicine.
He did. But I mean, he was a toddler when he got lost. He was able to swing around. Maybe he was already circumcised.
I don't know. It depends on when the ape studied medicine.
No, I'm not saying he was probably circumcised before he got lost in the jungle.
Oh, got it.
And
I think we need to ask one of the authors about
right.
this.
But immediately
If
after...
J.K. Rowling wrote this,
She
she would
would
be
tell-
tweeting about it at some point.
Right.
4 a.m.
Right.
Scotland time. George was already circumcised.
But then, like, immediately, like I said, this whole thing with, like, the mom confronting him, the horse thing, and then Ursula telling the parents about this whole situation was, like, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then he's back in the jungle. He's just like, oh, I guess I should leave. And then it's just convenient that Tukey, his, like, toucan, tells him that Ape is getting kidnapped. And then he says Ape's getting ape-napped or something. Like, they do some weird play on words. And then he just buys some Air Jordans and then ends up back in the jungle.
Well, around this time, they flip the typical teenage girls having a sexy pillow fight scene, and they gender swap it. Instead, they have Max and Thor tickle George for an uncomfortably long scene.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was just, you know, a little bit more of showing off his body.
Right.
Being touched by
yeah,
Max
by-
and Thor.
Yeah, which are the two mercenaries that Lyle hired. They stuck around to try to find Ape.
So, you know, I have to say, I do appreciate when objectifying is equal opportunity. However, women are just sexier than men, and so the tickle scenario doesn't translate well every time.
Well, and then at this point, once they got back, and then there was already some like poop or toilet humor, you know, with the poop humor with like the Lyle falling in the poop earlier in the movie. But at this point, it just devolves into toilet humor the rest of the movie. There's a point where, like on 3 different occasions, Ape farts in somebody's face.
Right.
At one point, they all the bad guys end up in a cage, and Shep, the elephant dog, pees on all of them. Like, it just gets really weird and like super just lowbrow.
Yeah,
and then
it was kind of lowbrow the whole time.
It really was, but then it went like lowest common denominator kind of like humor. And then Lyle just shows up and he like joined a cult and he's just gonna force Ursula to marry him. And the way that this whole thing gets resolved is they end up on these like rapids, and George goes like finds this ridiculously long vine and says something along the lines of like, this swing is really gonna hurt, and he swings across the entire jungle, smashes a tree, the tree falls over the river, and Ursula just climbs onto the tree while Lyle falls down a waterfall. Like, and that's basically the end of the movie. They get married in the jungle and they have a baby.
At the end, those bongo playing apes suddenly have bandanas.
Oh yeah, what the hell was that?
Matching bandanas.
And they did kung fu. They did ape fu or something like that.
Did George go shopping in San Francisco to only bring home red bandanas?
I guess. And bandanas aren't normally for ninjas.
Well, maybe he just thought they were spare loincloths and he wanted to spice things up a little.
Right.
But he only got red.
Yeah, I don't know.
Was he gonna stitch them together? Make a few little skirts?
Maybe. I don't know. The movie, like, they really just needed to wrap this movie up. Like, it's weird because I really don't understand where majority of the 90 minutes that this movie was really went to. Because there was so much, like, we really just flew by this movie. Like, there's just so much random, just obscure things that happened in this movie. But the plot itself could have been contained in like a half-hour episode of like a TV show.
But then how would they have had the opportunity to, you know, objectify him and throw in a random gratuitous nude scene?
Yeah, that's right. Like they did like a whole thing where he was naked in an apartment covering his butt. Like you saw a decent portion of his butt.
If he's been living alone in the jungle, except for some monkeys that, well, okay, were there bonobos there?
I mean, we didn't see any.
Are there bonobos in the jungle?
I mean, they're bonobos in Africa.
Either way, George is not going to be picking up great habits, and he might not be fully aware that his penis is a no-go in polite society.
Right. Absolutely.
I don't think he would care about covering up.
No, he wouldn't. He didn't. He was just walking around. It was Ursula who covered him up.
Hang on. He's wearing a loincloth, which means the peen needed protection. Therefore, George is uncircumcised.
We don't know that. We really don't know that. Well, I don't know. He definitely didn't care about nudity because he was just like, when the friends showed up, he was just naked, and then Ursula was the one who covered him. There was a point where he wanted to wear just a dress and it was too short, and she had to like give him clothes because it wasn't going to cover anything.
I like how she obviously has the resources to just go and get him an outfit, or have someone come measure him, or have a personal shopper pick something up, but instead she's like, yeah, let's just go shopping and you can wear my clothing while we do it.
Oh, he's simple, like you said.
I think Ursula's just really kinky.
Maybe. She must be. She went to the jungle looking for some strange.
Yeah, she brought home her own little sub.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Dressed him up in her clothes.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Yeah, the more I think about this movie, the weirder it gets.
It's a really weird movie.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. Who wrote this? Aaron
Sorkin. Jay Ward.
Jay Ward and 3 others.
Dana Olson.
Dana Olson's in there twice.
And Audrey Wells. Well, she wrote the story and the screenplay.
All right, well, what else has Audrey Wells done?
Under the Tuscan Sun. And The Hate You Give. A Dog's Purpose. Nope, not on board with her work.
The Kid.
Actually, I think I liked that movie.
It's all the same things.
Yeah. I don't really have much more to talk about on
my
this movie.
last note in my my study of this film is this movie just kind of sucks.
I really enjoyed it though. It's a really fun movie.
I think I remembered liking it a lot more, but when I really paid attention, it was just dumb.
It's super dumb. So would you say it ruined your childhood then by going back and watching this?
Yeah, I think it kind of ruined my affinity for George of the Jungle.
It didn't ruin mine. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this movie. I had a blast watching it.
I think it's still funny because you're like, what the hell is going on? It's so random and it's so odd that it's still funny, but it's not a very good movie.
I think it's really enjoyable. I thought like the humor and the production values were good. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Of course the production values are
Disney.
good. It's Disney. They threw a ton of money at it.
Right. I mean, but I thought it was good. I would say my childhood is untouched.
I guess it was the best that they were ever going to do with a George of the Jungle movie.
Well, they're doing a gritty reboot.
A gritty reboot?
I'm just kidding. No, they're not. I don't have much more to say about it. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely watch this with like our nephews. I would watch this with them. I think they would have a blast watching this movie.
Yeah, I don't think I'd let a child watch this.
Really?
Nah.
I think it's hilarious. I think they would find it hilarious, especially like all the fourth wall breaks. I think they would find it hilarious.
Yeah, and then you get to listen to poop jokes for the rest of the
Well,
day.
they're already doing that stuff. I don't have anything else. I think we should just discuss what we're going to cover next time.
I've got nothing. What are we doing next time?
You know what we're covering next time.
What are we covering next time?
Honey, it was the movie that you said you wanted to cover.
What was the movie? Zorro the Gay Blade.
Yep. I don't remember that movie much. I've definitely seen it, but I really don't remember it. I'm looking forward to watching it again.
It's a fabulous comedy. I love it. I've always loved it. It's a classic.
It's got that really tan guy.
The really tan guy?
Yeah, the actor, like, isn't it like George Hamilton?
I don't even remember.
I think it's George Hamilton. He's like famous for being really tan.
That's a good thing to be famous for.
Right. Katrina, Kat, aka Katrinosity. Where can our listeners find you?
Well,
I think I already said it.
You already said it, genius.
Dang, I'm smart.
I'm all over the internet at Katrinosity.
Check out her YouTube.
Sure.
Check out our YouTube. Link in the bottom or the description, depending on where you're consuming this media. You can check out everything that's MDXpods related at MDXpods.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Said Twitter twice. Instagram's probably our main place you should go, so check that out. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/MDXpods, and that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.